September 1939. Just a week after Germany's invasion of Poland, the Wehrmacht was rolling east with terrifying speed. Entire divisions collapsed before waves of tanks, bombers, and mechanized infantry that seemed unstoppable. Towns fell in hours, defenses shattered in days, and the Polish army struggled to regroup. Yet, in one overlooked corner near the Narew River, a small band of soldiers prepared to resist. Barely 700 men, led by Captain Władysław Raginis, faced an onslaught of 40,000 Germans. The Battle of Wizna, fought from September 7th to 10th, would pit a tiny force of Polish defenders against one of the largest mechanized armies in the world. Outnumbered nearly 60-1, these men knew they could not win, but they also knew they could delay. Their desperate stand became a legend, remembered as Poland's Thermopylae, a symbol of sacrifice and unyielding courage in the face of overwhelming odds. When Germany invaded Poland on September 1st, their strategy was simple but devastating. Blitzkrieg, or lightning war, coordinated assaults of tanks, artillery, aircraft, and mechanized infantry were designed to break through defenses quickly and prevent organized resistance. By September 6th, German forces had already captured much of western Poland. The Polish army, less modern and poorly equipped, was retreating east to form new defensive lines. The Narew River in northeastern Poland became one such line. Guarding it was a small fortified area near the village of Wizna. The fortifications were unfinished, consisting of 6 concrete bunkers, some machine gun nests, and trenches stretched across a narrow front. Their task was not to hold forever, but to delay the German advance long enough for Polish forces to regroup further east. Command fell to Captain Władysław Raginis, just 29 years old, and First Lieutenant Brykalski. Their men, about 720 soldiers, were armed with rifles, a handful of anti-tank weapons, and scarce artillery. Facing them was General Heinz Guderian's 19th Army Corps, over 40,000 men, more than 350 tanks, 108 howitzers, and overwhelming air support. The outcome seemed inevitable. Yet Raginis and his soldiers prepared to stand, knowing full well they might never leave Wizna alive. On September 7th, the German assault began. First came waves of Stuka dive bombers. The shriek of their sirens, followed by devastating explosions, tore into the Polish trenches and bunkers. Dry brush ignited, smoke choked the air, and men scrambled to their positions. Yet when the dust cleared, the bunkers still stood. German infantry advanced under cover, with tanks probing toward the Polish lines. The Poles responded with carefully aimed rifle fire and bursts from their machine guns, inflicting unexpected casualties. When German engineers attempted to cross the Narew using a bridge, Polish defenders detonated explosives, sending the crossing, and many soldiers crashing into the river. For a moment, the Germans were thrown into confusion. Polish anti-tank rifles, though few in number, struck at vulnerable points, knocking out several armoured vehicles. Machine gunners poured fire into advancing troops, forcing them to fall back. Against all expectations, the small garrison had held. But Guderian was determined. He ordered a renewed assault for the next day, bringing the full weight of artillery, tanks, and air power against the defences. For the defenders of Wizna, the first success was fleeting. The true test of their endurance was only just beginning. At dawn on September 8th, a thick fog blanketed the battlefield. Hidden within the mist, German tanks waded across the river while infantry followed in boats. The sudden appearance of panzers emerging through the haze was terrifying, but the Polish defenders reacted with discipline. Anti-tank rifles fired repeatedly, scoring hits on armour. Machine guns tore into infantry as they tried to establish a bridgehead. For hours, the battlefield was chaos. Explosions echoed as artillery duels raged. Polish shells struck German positions, forcing soldiers into the open. Yet German firepower was immense. High explosive shells slammed into bunkers, shaking the men inside. Several defenders were killed when direct hits collapsed parts of their shelters. Still, the Germans were forced to withdraw temporarily. The defenders had blunted yet another attack, buying precious time. But victory was an illusion. Ammunition was running dangerously low, and Polish casualties mounted with each passing hour. That night, only 11 battered survivors escaped from forward trenches to join the main bunkers at Góra Strękowa. Captain Raginis knew that the real fight would now focus on a single position, the heart of Wizna's defences. He resolved to fight to the last, swearing an oath never to surrender while alive. On September 9th, the full fury of the German offensive fell upon the remaining bunkers. Over 60 tanks, supported by artillery and infantry, pounded the defences. Stuka bombers returned, dropping explosives with devastating precision. Concrete bunkers shook with every impact, walls cracking, steel doors twisted and broken. One by one, Polish positions were overrun. First, Lieutenant Brykalski was killed at his post, refusing to abandon his men. At another stronghold, surrounded and without hope, Captain Schmidt led a desperate bayonet charge out of a destroyed bunker, briefly scattering German troops before being forced back. His final resistance ended in capture. By evening, only Raginis's command bunker remained. Surrounded by tanks and infantry, it endured relentless bombardment. Repeated German demands for surrender were met with silence or bursts of machine gun fire. Inside, the defenders rationed their last bullets, determined to hold as long as possible. But by September 10th, the situation was hopeless. Ammunition was gone, casualties were severe, and the bunker was collapsing under constant shell fire. Raginis gathered his remaining men, thanked them for their service, and ordered surrender to spare their lives. He himself refused to leave, fulfilling his oath. Moments later, he ended his life with a grenade. The Battle of Wizna ended after 3 days of desperate resistance. Of the 720 Polish defenders, most were killed in combat or captured once their positions were finally overrun. Only a handful survived. Against them, Guderian's 19th Army Corps, tens of thousands strong, equipped with hundreds of tanks, artillery and air support, lost valuable time and suffered notable casualties, though the exact numbers remain debated. Strategically, Wizna could not change the course of the campaign. Poland was overwhelmed by the combined invasions of Nazi Germany from the west and the Soviet Union from the east. Yet Wizna became a powerful symbol. For 3 days, a tiny force of under-equipped soldiers had defied one of the strongest armies in the world. German commanders, including Guderian himself, later acknowledged the stubbornness of the Polish resistance. For the men who fought at Wizna, it was never about victory. It was about duty, sacrifice, and honour. By delaying the German advance, they gave other Polish units precious hours to withdraw and regroup. Captain Władysław Raginis was remembered as a man who chose death rather than surrender, a commander whose courage defined his men's stand. In Poland, Wizna became immortalised as the Polish Thermopylae. The story of Wizna lives on not as a tale of triumph, but of unbreakable spirit. In the face of impossible odds, 700 men resisted 40,000, holding their ground until no strength remained. Captain Raginis's decision to sacrifice himself rather than surrender became a symbol of ultimate loyalty to his oath and to his nation. Though Poland fell in 1939, the courage shown at Wizna endures as proof that even the smallest force can inspire future generations. The defender's sacrifice remains a timeless reminder of honour, resistance, and the cost of freedom.